Information about the disappearance of the Qinghe tribe spreads more and more mysteriously among the various tribes. The content of the message ranges from inside the domain to outside the domain, and there are various speculations, but none of them can be a definite answer. The only person who knows the real situation is Lin Moyu, and even the human race saint can only guess. Wu Xingzuan was the first to guess it, because Lin Moyu told him before setting off that he was going outside the territory and gave him an approximate location. Judging from the route where Lin Moyu is going, he will pass by the Qinghe tribe. Therefore, Saint Hao is 80% sure that Lin Moyu did this. But why those stars disappeared was something that Saint Hao couldn't understand. He instinctively felt that Lin Moyu could not do this alone. But thinking about Lin Moyu's past deeds, I feel that this is not impossible. Lin Moyu officially entered the extraterrestrial space on a battleship. The junction between the inner and outer realms was a void with a width of about 100 light years. The void is like a bubble that tightly covers the space in the domain, which is called the junction place. The aura of law within the domain is stronger, while the atmosphere outside the domain is much weaker. The further away from the domain, the weaker the law will be, which will affect the speed of cultivation to a certain extent. Therefore, outside the territory is not suitable for cultivation, but 10 is only suitable for experience and adventure. When the warship emerges to the surface space, the laws will change in the internal and external areas, and the warship cannot sail in the deep space. Lin Moyu felt the changes in the laws, and the laws of immortality, time, and space all had a slight impact. The biggest influence is the starlight law. He has been using the starlight refining technique, and he can condense a star in 10 days. Once leaving the inner space, the efficiency of starlight refining is greatly slowed down, and it will take at least 10 days to condense a star. As he moves away, the efficiency of the starlight refining technique will continue to decrease until it loses its effect. Lin Moyu looked at this special area. In his feeling, the space within the entire world is the center, the area with the strongest rune power in the world. The extraterritorial space is the space created after the big world continues to grow. The big world swallows up a lot of the origins of other worlds and strengthens itself. So for countless years, the big world has been getting bigger and bigger. It's like a balloon that is constantly being inflated and can't stop even if it wants to. Until the balloon reaches its limit, it finally explodes. The big world is about to reach its limit now. If it cannot stop, it will explode sooner or later. Lin Moyu knew that he could not stop, so he could only find a way to stabilize the balloon so that it would not explode. The warship has been flying in the border area for a while, and in a few days it will cross the border area and enter the real extraterritorial space. The previous time, he entered the outside of the territory due to a space riot, and was directly sent back to the territory by Luo Shen, without ever entering the borderland. It is said that the borderland was once a battlefield, and there are many hidden dangers here. Now it has become a paradise for the giant beasts in the starry sky. There are countless giant beasts in the starry sky. Human beings often have gods disappearing here. I have to be careful. 17. Lin Moyu summoned a skeleton god general, opened the eyes of the soul, and looked into the void. The soul flames lit up one after another. Although they were not dense, there were more than 100 in sight. Each soul flame is extremely powerful, at least a starry sky beast in the realm of gods. One of them was so huge that it surpassed the god and reached the other shore. Lin Moyu was shocked. There were so many starry beasts hidden in this dark void. No wonder some people say that the borderland is a paradise for giant beasts in the stars. There are more than 1,000 starry sky beasts in this area alone, and most of them are gods. There are also many high-level gods, even those in the other side. If we look at the number alone, the starry sky beasts in the divine realm will surpass the human gods. Lin Moyu was slightly shocked, thinking of the scene in the dark void. If the powerful men from the Black Blood realm invade and control all the starry sky beasts here, it will also be a horrific disaster for the human race. But when I think about it carefully, it seems to have nothing to do with it. As long as he is around, it will be useless no matter how many star beasts there are. Using corpse explosion, these starry sky beasts will become his weapons. If anyone dares to use the starry sky beast to deal with the human race, the result will be very bitter. The warship flew silently in the starry sky, and Lin Moyu avoided these giant beasts in the starry sky. Although I am not afraid, there is no need to deliberately provoke him. In just 1 hour of flying, Lin Moyu saw no less than 10,000 god-level starry sky beasts. Even the starry sky beasts from the other shore level appeared. This is only a small distance, not even 1/10,000th of the entire junction. Based on this calculation, the number of behemoths in the starry sky will be extremely scary. Lin Moyu suddenly felt a familiar aura, and his eyes instantly became sharp. A group of soul flames came into view. This group of soul flames had the level of the other side realm, but it was obviously injured and a little empty. Starry Sky Giant Tree. Lin Moyu sensed the aura of the Starry Sky Giant Tree. The last time he really encountered the Starry Sky Giant Beast was in a small world. Lin Moyu knew that he was right. The person he met today was the same person back then. The mark left on his body by the giant tree in the starry sky had long been removed, but he could not escape Lin Moyu's keen soul sensing. It's not that enemies don't get together, why don't we kill him? Lin Moyu knew that the giant tree in the starry sky had visited the human race before, but was later beaten away by Saint Hao and fled in a hurry. With the laws of space, even Wu Xingzuan would have a hard time killing him. Now that so much time has passed, his injury has obviously not healed yet. If you want to kill him, this is indeed a good time. However, there are many starry sky beasts around him, all of them are starry sky beasts. If he kills him by himself, will it cause a starry sky beast riot? After thinking about it, a cruel smile appeared on Lin Moyu's lips. Actually, riots are not a bad thing. The more starry sky beasts come, the better it will be for me. Before Lin Moyu could decide, the starry sky beast's soul flame suddenly boiled. All humans deserve to die. The space shook, and the roar of the giant tree in the starry sky rushed into my mind. Lin Moyu's soul world was impacted, but fortunately the soul world was strong enough to withstand it completely. If it had been any other god, just this sound would have probably caused him to be injured. From the words of the starry sky giant tree, Lin Moyu immediately knew what he meant. This guy was injured by Saint Hao, he'd here to recuperate, and then directed all his hatred towards the human race. It seems we can't keep it. Lin Moyu made a decision in his heart. He would kill the giant tree in the starry sky today and end the cause and effect. Boom! Several thick vines cut through the starry sky and came with a roar. The giant tree in the starry sky is hundreds of thousands of kilometers away and attacks Lin Moyu. His attack carried the laws of space and instantly crossed the starry sky and hit the battleship. If it is hit, the battleship will most likely be damaged again. What the hell? Lin Moyu put away the battleship without even thinking. How could the newly repaired battleship be easily damaged? Then Lin Moyu stepped forward and disappeared in Zinkanshan in an instant. The giant tree in the starry sky smashed into the sky, but it became even crazier. At that moment, he saw Lin Moyu clearly. It's you, it's you. Ha 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 ha, you actually came out, you are dead, I will crush you to ashes. The voice of the giant tree in the starry sky was filled with ecstasy, and he instantly disappeared into the starry sky. He also used the law of space to quickly catch up with Lin Moyu, and the vines whipped down crazily. The giant tree in the starry sky also possesses the laws of space and seems to be more powerful than Lin Moyu. He caught up with Lin Moyu almost instantly, and the vines whipped around wildly. Lin Moyu stepped out again and disappeared. This time, Lin Moyu walked 3 steps in a row and crossed hundreds of millions of kilometers, but the giant tree in the starry sky followed him like a shadow, and he never relaxed in pursuit of Fu. I didn't expect you knew the laws of space. It's useless. You can't escape. There was a hint of surprise in Starry Sky Giant Tree's voice, surprised that Lin Moyu also possessed the laws of space. However, he also saw that Lin Moyu's space law was still very weak and not as good as his own. He chased more and more crazily, pressing forward step by step. The mark falls on Lin Moyu, and no matter where Lin Moyu escapes, he can catch up instantly. Lin Moyu did not speak, but a talisman array appeared in his hand, a containment array. After a teleportation, the talisman array is activated at the same time. The giant tree in the starry sky had just appeared, and the talisman formation was already overwhelmingly covering the sky. The containment talisman array can contain all things and trap enemies. The internal space of the containment talisman array is so huge that even the entire galaxy can be contained, let alone the giant tree in the starry sky. Lin Moyu's time calculation was very accurate. Just when the giant tree in the starry sky appeared before he could react, the containment talisman array was already activated. The giant starry sky tree disappeared into the starry sky. Lin Moyu showed a slight smile and tried the trapping effect of the containment formation on you. The containment talisman array is very useful, and the Holy Talisman Tianzuan Order Talisman Array has a variety of effects. Containment effect Lin Moyu has tried it, but the effect of trapping enemies is not yet known. Lin Moyu did not leave, but waited quietly. The containment talisman array sparkled in the starry sky and began to tremble after 10 seconds. Lin Moyu whispered, "It seems that the containment talisman array cannot last long." He was not in a hurry, he wanted to see the limits of the containment array. The shaking became more intense, and 20 seconds later, the containment talisman array collapsed. 20 seconds, it can trap the other side realm for 20 seconds, the effect is good. When my realm reaches a higher level, the containment talisman array will become stronger. The starry sky giant tree that escaped from the trap immediately found Lin Moyu and found that Lin Moyu had not escaped. He was very shocked. "You didn't escape." In his opinion, Lin Moyu would definitely escape during the period of time he was trapped. Unexpectedly, Lin Moyu didn't escape and was just waiting for him. For a moment, Starry Sky Giant Tree had some doubts as to what Lin Moyu was going to do. But the next second, his anger and hatred obscured his reason. In the small world, he was about to get Antares' Dragon Ball, but was finally stopped by Lin Moyu. Not only that, his own soul was also attacked. How could he bear this kind of shame and humiliation? Later, Wu Xingzuan was injured because he was looking for Lin Moyu. All the hatred exploded at this moment, and he had only one thought, to kill Lin Moyu. Lose down the town. The giant tree in the starry sky glowed all over, and an invisible aura spread outwards, sweeping across billions of miles of starry sky in an instant. The giant tree in the starry sky used its own space laws to block the starry sky. At this moment, Lin Moyu lost his ability to teleport. The giant tree in the starry sky roared angrily, "Your space laws have expired, you can't escape." The vines flew again, lashing towards Lin Moyu with great madness. Lin Moyu pointed his finger calmly, and the undead army appeared in the starry sky. The dense death dragon knights surrounded the starry sky beast overwhelmingly. The vines were blocked and struck the death dragon knight. The golden armor talisman was torn into pieces like pieces of paper. The death dragon knight collapsed on the spot and quickly resurrected. The encirclement still exists, no. Hundreds of legion rulers appeared on the innermost level, raising their swords at the same time and delivering a fatal blow. This blow from the legion ruler is equivalent to a full blow from the peak god, and it can also cause more or less damage to the giant tree in the starry sky. A large number of vines were cut off under the sword. The giant tree in the starry sky felt the danger and instinctively wanted to flee. He suddenly discovered that his teleportation had also failed. The army ruler's sword fell on the tree at the same time, the bark flew around, and there were wounds on the tree. The sap flowed out from under the wound, which looked scary, but was actually just a skin injury. Lin Moyu stood in the distance and watched coldly. "It's not just you who can seal off the space, I can too." The giant tree in the starry sky used the space to blockade, and Lin Moyu was affected and unable to teleport. Lin Moyu used the sealed space to also block the teleportation ability of the giant tree in the starry sky. Both of them know the laws of space and block the space at the same time. Each loses 800 and no one takes advantage. Bastard! The giant tree in the starry sky was extremely angry. The vines that had just been cut off quickly regrown and swept away wildly. The leader of the legion was swept away by the vines and was seriously injured. The Death Dragon Knight suffered heavy casualties again, but the next second the legion ruler healed himself and came back again. The Death Dragon Knight, who was shattered into pieces, was also resurrected. The entire undead army is like an invincible Shao Chang, dying over and over again, and living again and again. Lin Moyu looked at the encirclement forming and said, "That's it." With a tap of his finger, the Hell of Bones emerged and enveloped the giant tree in the starry sky. In just a moment, the Bone Hell was drawn to pieces, but the mission of the Bone Hell has been completed, the mark has been generated. Lin Moyu locked onto the giant tree in the starry sky, and the immortal flames burned blazingly in the starry sky. The skeleton throne emerged, and the 5 skeleton kings stood up from the throne. The scarlet cloak burned with blazing flames, and the skull throne turned into a huge bone sword. The skeleton king raised his bone sword and used the technique, Kill God. The sword light lit up, accompanied by the giant tree in the starry sky screaming violently. Huge wounds appeared on the tree, and a large amount of bark, flesh, and blood exploded. The Skeleton King is already half a step closer to the strength of the other side, and the power of rules is so powerful that even if it is a little short of the Starry Sky Giant Tree, it will still damage the Starry Sky Giant Tree. The giant tree in the starry sky bloomed with green light, and the wood element surged wildly to repair the wounds. As a plant-type starry sky beast from the other side, its vitality is unimaginable. Moreover, the starry sky giant tree itself can control the wood element, which is more difficult to deal with than the ordinary plant-type starry sky beasts. The wounds caused were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye, and soon after, the giant tree in the starry sky opened and grew larger. His body was originally several thousand meters tall, a little smaller than the Skeleton King. But now, his body began to grow crazily, becoming thicker and longer. Lin Moyu remembered what Antares once said, that the giant tree in the starry sky and the true God realm can reach tens of millions of meters. The Divine King realm can be increased tenfold, the Divine Lord realm should be even greater, and as for the Other Shore realm, the realm of the Other Shore can be controlled freely, the size is determined by the heart. Just like the Skeleton King, in the God King realm, it is sometimes 100,000 meters, for Li Hao, but in the Divine King realm, it shrinks to 10,000 meters. The giant tree in the starry sky grew rapidly, and his aura continued to increase. In the blink of an eye, he went from a few thousand meters to 1,000,000 meters tall behemoth. Huge vines swept across, majestic power filled the starry sky, and the Death Dragon Knight army was swept to collapse in an instant. Lin Moyu whispered to himself, the giant tree in the starry sky is more powerful than the Bronze Lizard King. His huge size gives him amazing destructive power. Countless vines are like countless weapons, sweeping across the starry sky. The Skeleton King waved his long sword, swung countless sword lights, and cut off the Emperor's tomb. The space around Lin Moyu suddenly split open, and a vine whipped from behind. Lin Moyu sensed the golden sword appearing in his hand for the first time. The golden swords intertwined to form a golden shield, blocking Xiao's sneak attack. Then an ancient talisman jade piece appeared in Lin Moyu's hand, 10 parts of colorful water, 100,000 parts of the power of faith, and his aura also rose simultaneously. The ancient talisman punched out, and the aura of the Other Shore realm made the giant tree in the starry sky feel dangerous. The 1,000,000-meter-high tree shook crazily, and a large number of vine branches grew out, with the power of rules wrapped around them punching the ancient talisman. Lin Moyu tapped his finger, and red light exploded. The cry of pain came from the giant tree in the starry sky, and its movements also stopped. Lin Moyu did not stop, the flames burned in the starry sky, and a terrifying giant eye opened. The eyes of the undead stared at him, and the soul attacks landed heavily on the giant tree in the starry sky. The giant tree in the starry sky screamed again, and its movements became stiff. 2 soul strikes could not cause any harm to him, they could only interrupt his attack, but that was enough. The soul-killing sword flashed past, following the footsteps of the Eye of the Dead, and the 3rd soul attack was launched. Lin Moyu did not add the colorful water and the power of faith to the soul-killing sword, it was too late. The 3 soul attacks followed one after another, within half a second, and the impact on the giant tree in the starry sky would not exceed 1 second. At this second, the ancient talisman smashed a large number of vines with one punch and came to it. The ancient talisman punched him, blasted into his body, and then exploded inside his body. A big hole was blown out of the giant tree in the starry sky, and his body almost broke. Green light flashed, and the huge with 380 series of rules surged, trying to repair the wound. However, the wound was entangled with a large number of immortal laws, and a large amount of death power was corroding the wound, making his recovery very slow. When the ancient talisman punch was activated, Lin Moyu used a lot of death power. With the help of his original magic, he was temporarily promoted to the Peak God, and also possessed some power of rules. In addition, the law of immortality itself is powerful enough, even if it is a giant tree in the starry sky, it will take some time to clear it. 5 3-light talismans flew out, activated at the same time, and landed on the 5 skeleton kings respectively. Under the 3-light talisman, the time flow rate belonging to the skeleton king changes. 1 second in the real world is 3 seconds to skeleton king. The frequency of the skeleton king's attacks suddenly tripled, and the sword light was like a torrential rain. The skeleton king chopped down countless vines and reached the giant tree in the starry sky. In an instant, thousands of swords fell, a large number of wounds suddenly appeared on the tree, and countless tree flesh was chopped away. The giant tree in the starry sky shook its body crazily, and new vines grew out of the places where the skeleton king attacked, hitting the skeleton king. Countless cracks were pulled out of the skeleton king's solid body, and it was about to collapse. Behind Lin Moyu stood a row of legion rulers, who were all treating the skeleton king. The giant tree in the starry sky pulled out more vines and tied up the skeleton king, making it difficult for them to move. Boff. Then the vines exerted their force, and the skeleton king was immediately severely injured. His bones were shattered on the spot, and even the ruler of the legion had no time to treat him. But the next second, the skeleton king resurrected again and continued to launch a fierce attack on the giant tree in the starry sky. The giant tree in the starry sky is going crazy, and the skeleton king cannot be killed. Not only the skeleton king, but also the undead army can't be killed, and they can be resurrected after being killed. The soul-killing sword has returned. Lin Moyu took out hundreds of drops of colorful water, plus 1,000,000 pieces of faith, to push the power of the soul-killing sword to its limit. The soul-killing sword struck again, launching a soul attack, followed closely by the starry sky giant tree. This time's soul attack was much stronger than the previous ones, almost destroying the soul world of the giant tree in the starry sky. The soul was severely injured, and the giant tree in the starry sky beat Lin Moyu with great anger. The vine broke through the space limit and appeared in front of Lin Moyu instantly. Lin Moyu did not dodge or dodge, and relied on the golden sword to firmly block Teng Jin. The golden shield twisted during the attack, but it looked like it could hold on for a few more seconds. The skeleton king who was strangled again was not resurrected, and they disappeared at the same time. The next second, Lin Moyu summoned the skeleton king again, and the skeleton king appeared in the flames. The skeleton king stood up and waved his sword, because Lin Moyu blocked the vine attack. Lin Moyu's body once again aroused the aura of his original magic. Original magic, strong soldiers. The damage of the undead army is increased tenfold, and the combat power is increased accordingly. Then comes the water of many colors and the power of faith. Advertisement. Lin Moyu has done the same style of play many times, and it works every time. The 2 original spells were activated at the same time, and Lin Moyu also raised the golden sword at the same time. Spell, Kill God. The second time he killed the god was 10 times more powerful than the first time. The giant tree in the starry sky exploded with fur, and it felt extremely dangerous. The power of space flows down and covers the whole body to form a space barrier, trying to block Lin Moyu's attack with the help of space laws. However, the god-destroying sword ignored the space barrier and exploded directly on the giant tree in the starry sky. The sword light lit up like a star and then exploded. Boom! 6 huge holes were blown out of the giant tree in the starry sky, and the giant tree was almost penetrated by the blast. The woodloft surged crazily, trying to repair the wound, but the effect was not good. The giant tree in the starry sky enlarged its body, and although its strength became stronger accordingly, its defense power remained unchanged. Lin Moyu's eyes were shining brightly, and the space laws of the giant tree in the starry sky had not been sublimated into space laws. Moreover, his space law is not powerful, only slightly stronger than his own. Even Yu Qingru is better than the starry sky giant tree in mastering the laws of space. The giant tree in the starry sky is born with 2 laws, the law of wood element and the law of space. The law of wood element is very strong and has been transformed into the power of rules. In comparison, his space laws are very weak and have not been converted into space rules. Why is this happening? This is very unreasonable. Lin Moyu thought of the starry sky fishmen. The starry sky fishmen do not allow others to understand the laws of space. That is their exclusive territory. The starry sky fishmen have a causal magic weapon that can lock on enemies remotely and attack them. If the starry sky giant tree cannot enhance the laws of space, it is most likely related to the starry skyfish people. Lin Moyu's aura gradually weakened, his soul power was exhausted, and his original magic disappeared. Lin Moyu rolled his eyes slightly, with a hint of ridicule. It seems that you are really stupid and have not been able to comprehend the stronger space laws. The giant tree in the starry sky roared angrily, "Asshole, you don't understand at all." Lin Moyu said, "You have the laws of space, but you can't understand the laws of space. It's really a waste. Your wisdom is better than that of beasts. The laws of space are simply an insult to you." Lin Moyu's words were extremely sarcastic, making the giant tree in the sky even more angry, and his attacks became even more crazy. The rules of the wood system exploded, and countless giant trees in the starry sky formed by the power of the rules evolved in the starry sky. These giant trees in the starry sky have the combat power of high-level gods. Lin Moyu shook his head. Compared with quantity? You are far behind. With a thought in his heart, hundreds of millions of skeleton gods rushed out, densely packed in the starry sky, and once again surrounded the giant tree in the starry sky. The giant tree in the starry sky that evolved from the rules of the wood system was also submerged by the skeleton god general, and could not even stir up any waves. The starry sky giant tree is angry again and again. Since the fight with Lin Moyu, he has never been able to take advantage of it. Not only was he injured, his soul was in agony and the wound was difficult to heal, but there was nothing he could do about Lin Moyu. Just the boundless sea of skeletons is enough to kill him for a long time. Now, Lin Moyu is still verbally insulting him, revealing his deepest scars. He roared like he was losing his mind. "You know nothing, you can't understand the laws of space at all. The more you understand, the faster you will die." Lin Moyu knew from his reaction that his guess was right. He must have been sniped by the starry sky fisherman tribe. If he continues to understand the laws of space, the Holy Lord of the starry sky fisherman tribe will personally find him. The giant tree in the starry sky roared angrily, roaring one after another. The sound shook the space and spread for hundreds of millions of miles, and the powerful giant trees in the starry sky woke up one after another. Tens of thousands of starry sky beasts woke up and rushed towards Lin Moyu. There must be a reason why the giant tree in the starry sky would choose to recuperate here. There are countless starry sky behemoths living in the junction. If most of the starry sky behemoths were not intelligent, it is estimated that a whole new race could have been formed. Lin Moyu even thought of a name for them, called the Beast Clan. The reaction of the starry sky beasts now confirms Lin Moyu's guess. The starry sky giant tree hides here. If there is danger, he can summon a large number of starry sky beasts. There are also many peak god-level beasts among these giant beasts in the starry sky, which would give them a headache even if they faced them in the other side realm. With so many starry sky beasts and his own space laws, even if the Holy Lord comes over, he can still treat them calmly. But Lin Moyu's eyes sparkled. Just what I want. He deliberately insulted the starry sky giant tree just for now. Lin Moyu knows his own strength very well. It is not difficult to defeat the other side of the world, but it is not easy to kill the other side of the world. Unless the other side of the world just stood there and let him kill him, it would be difficult to kill the Bronze Lizard King once he escaped that day. The giant tree in the starry sky is even more like this now. If he really wants to escape, it will not be easy for him to kill him. In particular, he is a giant tree in the starry sky of the plant system. Both his vitality and resilience are astonishingly strong. After thinking about it, Lin Moyu found two ways to kill him. The first way is to use your trump card. This is not cost-effective, so just give up. The second method also uses corpses to explode, but the number of corpses in his hands is not enough, so he may not be able to kill the giant tree in the starry sky. Since it's not enough, let's borrow more corpses. There are so many giant beasts in the starry sky here, and they are all excellent materials. Nowadays, a large number of starry sky beasts are coming, which is no different from what Lin Moyu thought. As soon as his heart moved, the hell of bones emerged, covering the starry sky beast that rushed over. The evil spirits from hell flew out crazily and attacked the starry sky beast. The starry sky beast instinctively fought back and was quickly marked. Lin Moyu took out the corpse of a god and said, "I will bury you with these starry sky beasts." The giant tree in the starry sky was surrounded by skeleton gods and generals, and it was impossible to see what Lin Moyu was doing. But for some reason, he felt vaguely that something was wrong, as if he had made some wrong decision. Boom! The explosion echoed through the starry sky and shook the soul. Lin Moyu killed 8 starry sky beasts with only one god's body. The power of the corpse explosion is determined by the state of the corpse during life, but the talent has a bonus to it, and it can often kill enemies beyond the level. The explosion of a corpse that has been upgraded to a white star level ignores time and space. As long as it is locked, it will be attacked no matter how far away it is. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of explosions continued, and the entire starry sky was shaking. The sound of explosions became increasingly dense and incessant. What happened? What's going on? The giant tree in the starry sky was stunned by the explosion. He swept the starry sky crazily. The skeleton gods and generals died and came back to life, and then died again when they were fit. Anyway, the encirclement will not allow him to leave even a single step. The Death Dragon Knight launched a charge and crashed into him desperately. Even if he knocks himself into pieces, he is not afraid. The realm is not as good, the damage is very small, but it can't stand up to many people. The starry sky beast wanted to break out of the siege, but was stopped again and again. The roar continued and became faster and faster. Dozens of explosions can be heard every second, as well as the faint screams of the starry beasts. The starry sky giant tree finally discovered that the starry sky giant beasts it summoned were being slaughtered. Every time an explosion sounds, countless starry sky beasts will die. The starry sky giant tree finally thought of something. His clone was also bombed in that small world. The bad feeling is getting stronger and stronger. Boom! There was another explosion, a large amount of bark and flesh was blown away, and the starry sky beast trembled and screamed. This time the explosion fell on him. The explosion was very powerful and was close to an attack from the other side. Immediately afterwards, explosions occurred one after another, and each explosion was very powerful. The giant tree in the starry sky screamed in agony, its vines were blown off one after another, and its body was covered with wounds. Lin Moyu worked with both hands left and right, multitasking, detonating corpses one after another. The giant tree in the starry sky was submerged by the explosion, his breath was rapidly weakening, and his injuries were getting worse. In the blink of an eye, most of the dense branches had been broken off, and they looked a little bare. Green sap was flying in the starry sky, and the huge tree body was covered with wounds and looked a little incomplete. The giant tree in the starry sky finally couldn't bear it anymore. The laws of space broke out in full force, and the space was torn apart. The branches of the giant tree in the starry sky broke completely in an instant, and his body returned to the size of a kilometer. The giant tree in the starry sky crashed into the torn space and escaped instantly. He traveled tens of millions of kilometers in an instant, appeared in the distance, and fled quickly. Lin Moyu did not pursue him. The space here was still blocked, and he could not use the laws of space. The reason why the giant tree in the starry sky can travel through space is because he paid a huge price. Lin Moyu could feel that his breath weakened sharply after tearing apart the space. Because of the starry sky fish human race, the space laws of the starry sky giant tree have never been able to be cultivated, and they are no better than themselves. He forced the space law to tear apart the space, and he must pay a price. Watching the giant tree in the starry sky go away, Lin Moyu sneered, "You can't jump away." There are more than 10,000 corpses of giant starry beasts in front of them. The most powerful of these corpses is the peak god. There are also a large number of high-level gods, which are more than enough to kill the giant tree in the starry sky. But just in case, Lin Moyu once again activated the original magic, Strong Soldiers. The damage is increased by 10 times as a final insurance. White Star Technique, Corpse Explosion. The giant tree in the starry sky fled far away, and he was relieved when he saw that Lin Moyu did not catch up. All the branches on his body have been broken, and even his soul has been somewhat damaged. Forcibly breaking out the space laws to tear apart the sealed space has indeed paid a lot of price, and it will not be possible to recover without hundreds or even thousands of years. I won't let you go, absolutely not. From now on, when I see humans, I will kill everyone I see. His hatred for Lin Moyu has penetrated deep into his bones and has long implicated the entire human race. Just as he was thinking about it, a sense of danger suddenly came over him, and then he exploded. Explosions followed one after another, swallowing him up again. The giant tree in the starry sky was completely blown away. Why was it still being attacked when it was clearly far away? He used the law of space again and continued to stay away, and in the blink of an eye he was tens of millions of kilometers away. But along the way, the explosion still didn't stop. When he teleported, the explosions continued. He ran farther and farther, but no matter where he went, the shadow of his attacker followed him. The body keeps exploding, and the bark of the tree has been blown away. Now every time it explodes, all that is blown away is flesh and blood. Green sap flowed all the way across the starry sky, everywhere. The giant tree in the starry sky was about to cry but had no tears. The injuries were getting worse and worse, and consciousness began to fade away. Why is this happening? He really didn't understand what methods Lin Moyu used. He has obviously escaped hundreds of millions of kilometers, and there is no trace of Lin Moyu at all. Why are you still being attacked? And the attack intensity is even more terrifying than before. The tree body collapsed, and the 1,000-meter-long tree body was broken, leaving less than 100 meters. The core of the tree has been exposed. This is his core, which he usually protects very tightly, but now he can no longer protect it. The giant tree in the starry sky was finally on the verge of death, dying, and the explosion finally stopped. The giant tree in the starry sky has lost consciousness and lies motionless in the starry sky. The nearby starry sky beasts seemed to smell something, and they woke up one after another and flew towards the starry sky giant tree. Starry Sky Giant Tree discovered this and was filled with despair. He is from the other side, and his flesh and blood is extremely attractive to other starry sky beasts. He is usually powerful, and the giant beasts in the starry sky respect him and obey his orders. Now that he has become weak and dying, those giant beasts in the starry sky will devour him and eat him. The behemoths in the starry sky are extremely numerous and powerful, but they lack intelligence. Only a few giant beasts in the starry sky can awaken their spiritual wisdom and think and grow like other creatures. Most of the starry sky beasts will only act according to their instincts. Watching a large number of starry beasts flying in from all directions, their eyes are filled with greed that cannot be concealed. The giant tree in the starry sky can only watch them arrive and bring death. Boom! An explosion sounded, and the giant starry sky tree heard screams, and a giant starry sky beast was blown up. Then he saw the undead army and stopped all the starry sky beasts flying over. 917. The explosions continued, and those starry sky beasts were killed in the blink of an eye, leaving 3 of them. Lin Moyu appeared in front of the giant tree in the starry sky and looked at him coldly. Do you have any last words? As a guy he had known since childhood, Lin Moyu didn't mind letting him leave a last word before he died. The giant tree in the starry sky seems to have lost its anger, and its voice has become calmer. When death is imminent, there is nothing left to intimidate. I don't have any last words. I just don't want to give up. Why did I meet you? It has only been a few years since the small world. Why are you so strong? But you won't live too long. As long as you continue to practice the laws of space, someone will come to kill you. That is the Holy Lord, and Saint Chen killed him. Lin Moyu shook his head. You don't even know who stopped you from practicing the laws of space. You are very pitiful. The soul of the giant tree in the starry sky beat a few times. Do you know? Lin Mo said, I know, and they have already taken action against me, but they failed. They suppressed everything. The voice of the giant tree in the starry sky roared fiercely again. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Lin Mo said, nothing is impossible. I originally wanted to tell you, but since you don't believe it, I don't have to tell you. As he spoke, white mist rose up from his body, and the faint sound of dragon roar could be heard. Luck turned into a dragon. Lin Moyu used the explosive luck technique to increase his luck to the limit. At the same time, he began to control the luck of the giant starry sky tree. The luck of the giant starry sky tree was extremely bad, with a value of extremely 1, dark gray, and on the verge of death. There is a huge difference in luck between the two, and the bed movement starts. There was a soft bang, which was the last sound heard by the giant tree in the starry sky. His soul collapsed and his consciousness fell into endless darkness. The giant tree in the starry sky died, under the pressure of the tunnel. Lin Moyu felt it quietly and found that the cause and effect had not changed at all. The giant tree in the starry sky did not leave any backup plan, so there was no cause and effect. This is the best result. Silently does not like cause and effect. Cause and effect are too heavy. If there are too many, even the world will be overwhelmed, let alone yourself. Just as he was about to put away the corpse of the giant tree in the starry sky, Lin Moyu suddenly noticed something strange. There is something hidden inside the corpse of the giant tree in the starry sky. This is the core of the giant tree in the starry sky, equivalent to the heart of human beings, and there is something hidden inside. Lin Moyu took it out, with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Is this a shell? What is hidden inside the body of the starry sky giant tree is actually a shell. Wherever there is the sea, there are usually shells. The starry sky fishmen also like to use shells. They can refine shells into various magic weapons. Yu Qingru also gave Lin Moyu a communicator made of shells. The two could communicate with each other within a certain range. But now that there is a shell hidden in the giant tree in the starry sky, it is time to treat the monster directly. Lin Moyu took the shell in his hand and observed it carefully, and found that it had many similarities with the shell Yu Qingru gave him. This shell should be a magic weapon, but there are no traces of it being refined. Why does the starry sky giant tree keep it and hide it so well? Lin Moyu was very surprised. If the starry sky giant tree was still alive, could he ask this question? But it is dead now. Of course, you can also ask the question of resurrecting the dead and turning him into a resurrected person. Not only whether it can be successfully controlled across a large realm, but also whether it is worth it. Moreover, the starry sky giant tree may not necessarily know the answer. The giant tree in the starry sky knows very little. Unlike the human race, which has a huge inheritance, his information is too scarce. Maybe he collected the shells because they were unusual, and he wasn't sure what the short-track shells were for. Just looking at it with the naked eye, you can't see anything. Compared with the starry skyfish people, there are 7 points of similarity, but there are also differences. Lin Moyu clearly felt that the shell obtained by the starry sky giant tree was of a better quality than the one given to him by Dr. Sui Ching Yi. From the shell, Lin Moyu felt a familiar breath. He thought for a moment and already knew where the similarities were. Heritage Pearl. Lin Moyu felt the aura of the inherited pearl from the shell, which was very similar to the inherited pearl of the Yunwu sect. Strong men in ancient times liked to use pearls. Of course, the pearls they use are ordinary insurance doctors. Lin Moyu's heart moved. Is there something recorded here? He carefully sent the soul into the soul. Although he felt that there would be no danger, Lin Moyu was still very careful. The soul power was smoothly injected into it, and the shell began to grow slightly. The light is very beautiful. It is a deep blue, very charming. There's a show. Lin Moyu continued to inject soul power to see if he could fully activate the shell. As time passed by, Lin Moyu injected more and more soul power, the shell became brighter and brighter, and the area covered by the light was also rapidly growing. Lin Moyu's eyes became more and more surprised. The soul power he injected had exceeded his own total soul power. If World Tree hadn't been able to continuously restore his soul power, his spiritual calendar would have been exhausted. But the shell was still not fully activated. Lin Moyu could feel that the shell still needed soul power. As soon as he stops, the shell will quickly dim. Lin Moyu didn't believe in evil, but he wanted to see how much spiritual energy the shell could absorb. At this time, he was completely sure that the shell was extraordinary. If it were an ordinary thing, it would have been exploded by his soul power. After a full 10 minutes, the shell was finally fully activated, and the blooming light enveloped a large star field, which was originally 10,000 kilometers away. In this star field, all the starry sky beasts all retreated. They seemed to be afraid of the light of the shells. The starry sky for thousands of miles turned blue, and then Lin Moyu heard the sound of rushing water, and his nose became wet. At this moment, he had the illusion of being in the ocean. The water rippled, and in a blink of an eye, the starry sky was covered by the ocean. Chen Moyu found that he was really in the ocean. The ocean was not far from his feet, but for some reason, Lin Moyu felt that this ocean was extremely dangerous. Then, he saw a large ball drifting with the waves in the ocean. The ball is translucent, half above the water and half under the water, sinking into the water. The moment Lin Moyu saw the ball, he could no longer move his eyes away, and his body was trembling slightly. He opened his mouth and spat out a few words with difficulty. This is a big world. Lin Moyu's expression was very strange at this time. As calm as he was, he couldn't help but be shocked at this moment. The scene before my eyes is really too unbelievable. He actually saw the big world. From the perspective of outside the big world, he saw the world of Qing in 3 condescending postures. This experience has never happened before. The reason why he is so sure is because of the big world runes. His gaze passed through the translucent sphere and saw the center of the sphere, directly to the government area. This rune has been broken, with cracks everywhere, as if it will collapse at any time. He recognized this rune and had seen it more than once. It was undoubtedly the rune of the Great World. In addition to the big world runes, he also saw countless house clans in the sphere. These starlights interweave into pieces of star fields, which are the various star fields in the big world. Among them are the Divine City Star Territory of the human race, the Sifong Star Territory, and the star territories of various races such as the Demon Tribe and the Golden Eagle Tribe. He even found the star territory of the Blue Crane clan that he had just wiped out not long ago. The star territory of the Blue Crane clan is now empty, with nothing in it. And outside each star field, there are still extremely vast 10 spaces. These spaces are extraterritorial spaces. It is not that there is nothing in the extraterrestrial space, there are also stars, but the number is very similar. Moreover, most of the extraterritorial space is hidden under the seawater and cannot be seen clearly. Taking everything into consideration, Lin Moyu judged that this sphere was the big world. Suddenly he thought of a sentence that Holy Talisman Tianzuan once blurted out. O Wen's words included 3 gardens, boundary sea. At that time, Holy Talisman Tianzuan did not continue speaking, but now that he thought about it, Lin Moyu suddenly understood. Boundary sea, world sea. The big world is one world, and there are many other worlds like Chen Qing's world. These worlds range from large to small, and are innumerable. And the place where they are located is the boundary sea. If this is really a boundary sea, then there should be other worlds. Lin Moyu searched the boundary sea, and finally saw a similar sphere in a distant place. This sphere is much smaller than the big world, almost only 1% of the size of the big world. But Lin Moyu felt that this world was full of vitality, but the world of heaven gave him the feeling of deep lips. Then Lin Moyu's eyes shrank, he knew that world. During the most recent divine journey, Tian Xingzuan once entered a strange world. Later, Mr. Xing guessed that that world was very close to the big world and a collision was very likely. Lin Moyu looked at the direction of the 2 worlds, and his face became unsightly. Xing Lao was right, there will really be a collision. Judging from the trajectory speeds of the 2 worlds, a collision will indeed occur. Lin Moyu felt a sense of urgency in his heart. Although the 2 sides were still far apart, it was only a matter of time before they met. Although the scale of that vibrant world is far smaller than that of the big world, it is very likely that there will be powerful people in the supreme realm. If there was only one, it might be able to handle it, but if there were more, the whole world would be over. I don't know how much time we have left. Lin Moyu couldn't judge the time. He felt that the time in the world was different from the time in the big world, so he couldn't judge. The big world is here. Where is the Black Blood world? Suddenly thinking of the Black Blood realm, Lin Moyu continued to look for traces of the Black Blood realm, but found none. It shouldn't be. The Black Blood realm is missing? Is it because I can't see it? Or is it really missing? Lin Moyu was also unable to make a correct judgment. At this time, the shell's light began to shrink, quickly became dim, and the blue light was disappearing. Lin Moyu hadn't seen enough, and immediately tried to inject soul power into Beak, but it had no effect. Beak rejected his soul power. After a few seconds, the boundary sea disappeared and the starry sky returned to calm. Lin Moyu's body trembled and his brows furrowed. It feels like I have returned from another time and space, and the time around me has become abnormal. Lin Moyu used the law of time and let the law of time flow throughout his body. This discomfort felt warm and unfamiliar. My feeling is correct. I did enter another time and space just now. It's not the time and space of the big world. Could it be said that I just briefly left the big world? Lin Moyu couldn't believe it. He was clearly here. How could he escape from the heavenly world? Can a small piece of shell take you out of the big world? The shell had lost its luster and became ordinary. Lin Moyu felt that this shell came from the boundary sea, not from the world-weary area. It has a magical function that allows you to see the world outside the big world and the boundary sea. Time and space are different, and the flow rate of time is also different. I was there for almost 5 minutes just now. How long has passed in the big world? Lin Moyu's heart moved and he immediately took the battleship Tian. There is a timing device in the battleship that can tell the time. After deducting the time spent fighting against the giant tree in the starry sky, more than 70 days have passed. 10 minutes, 70 days, 10,000 times the flow rate. To read Baoshuang novels, go to Feilu Novel Network. Lin Moyu was stunned on the spot. In the 10 minutes in Jiahai, 70 days had passed in the real world. 10 minutes and 70 days, a full 10,000 times flow rate. Although it is unbelievable, we can only accept the reality. Lin Moyu completely calmed down. Based on the time in the World C, there are still about 50 days before that world collides with the big world, which translates into 500,000 days in reality. That is less than 1,400 years. This time is shorter than expected. What Xing Lao said is very close. In fact, the Western District will take 1,000 years to complete. According to Xing Lao's estimation, it will take at least several thousand years for the two worlds to collide. What Lin Moyu saw this time was accurate to the year 1400. In 1400, there was not much time left for the world and medicine. Putting away the shells and the corpse of the starry sky giant tree, Lin Moyu sighed softly, took out the battleship and left again. Now that the matter has come to this, Lin Moyu knows that any emotion and worry is useless. The two worlds collide, and a world war is about to begin, which is even more cruel than the fall of the Doctor. Either you die or I live. Except for the human race in ancient times, because they are too powerful, they are willing to give a piece of heaven to the weak. Lin Moyu believed that the strong man in that world would definitely erase everything in the big world, plunder the origin of the big world, and strengthen his own world. He lowered his eyes and pondered what he should do next. In 1400 years, he will be promoted to the Holy Lord. In 1,400 years, he will clean up all the races in the world, leaving no one behind. When worlds collide, they are both danger and opportunity. If we can win, we may have the opportunity to use the new origin of the world to open up a new divine path. The words of Holy Talisman Tianzuan are still fresh in my mind. There used to be only one divine path in the big world, and the subsequent divine paths were built one after another after plundering the origins of other worlds. Although its roots are not yet understood, Lin Moyu already understands that by plundering the origins of other worlds, it is possible to establish a new divine path. Therefore, when the world collides, it is both a danger and an opportunity. The divine road must be built. There is no doubt about this. It is a reset that Imo Beeching cannot give up. Then give it a try. The warship flew over the border area, truly entered the outside world, dived into deep space, and flew farther and farther. Killing the giant tree in the starry sky can be regarded as settling a century-old grudge. After the cause and effect was cut off, Lin Moyu felt relieved. With the cause and effect of the other side realm, after cutting it off, the change in feeling is still quite obvious. Lin Moyu knew that he was burdened with a lot of causes and effects, and countless doctors wanted to get rid of him. But sooner or later, I will kill them all. Get rid of all causes and effects, travel lightly, and see if you can find a way to create a new divine path. Lin Moyu once again fell silent in his rune cultivation. The runes were too broad and profound, and he still had a lot to learn. As for realm cultivation, he has found another method. Just like looking for strange stars in front of the deity, now he also has other ways to practice. The doubts that the Qinghe tribe was wiped out have not stopped after the past 100 days, but have become more and more intense. The weirder something is, the more worrying it is. Many races that are not much different from the Qinghe tribe have Lan Zhijiang. Several saints from the human race are basically certain that Lin Moyu did it, but they won't say it. Not only did they not say it, they also spread false news to the outside world. This means that it is possible that ghosts from outside the territory appear, and this is a phenomenon in the Tuanjing district. The ghost race is not made up by the human race. Many races have records about the ghost race. However, there is quite little information about the ghost tribe. Several saints from the human race also thought about it for a long time before they thought of the ghost tribe. So they modified it, added some fuel and jealousy, and released the news. In the news of the human race, the ghost race swallows everything, and wherever it goes, the craftsman's network is not kept. However, the ghost tribe has always lived outside the territory and rarely comes to the territory. The news from the human race was half true and half false, but all races had to believe it. After all, the human race is the oldest race in the world and has the most complete information. Except for the legendary Dragon Clan, it is estimated that no race knows more than the human race. However, the Dragon Clan has disappeared for countless years, and only the human race can find them. Moreover, the Dragon Clan never interferes with the operation of this world, does not participate in any racial wars, and never obtains resources from the other world. So it is more mysterious. After the news about the Ghost Tribe appeared, many races chose to believe it. Several saints from the human race are already smiling. As long as someone believes in it, the goal has been achieved. Their purpose in releasing the news was to confuse the public and to prove suspicions about Chen Moyu and Xia Zhang. Even if there is even a little doubt, Saint Hao guessed that Lin Moyu might do it a second or even a third time. Finding someone to take the blame in advance would only be good for Lin Moyu, not bad. Several saints actually know in their hearts that if there is still hope for the human race, if there is still hope for this world, the hope will most likely lie with Lin Moyu and his two siblings. They will not interfere with the growth of the two of them, but they will try their best to do what they can. Half a month later, Lin Moyu's battleship left deep space. It was quiet and dark outside the territory, and starlight became extremely rare here. The glimmer of light on the battleship became the brightest star. There is no star map here, so Lin Moyu can only identify the direction by himself. Perhaps, in ancient times, this was also a prosperous star field. Lin Moyu put away the battleship, glanced across the empty starry sky, and couldn't help but sigh. In ancient times, the human world was extremely prosperous and powerful, and the territory of the district doctor was far more dangerous. Where Lin Moyu was standing now was 100,000 light years away from the domain, and it was extremely desolate. It can be said that in ancient times, this place was very likely to be extremely prosperous and home to countless cultivators. If he could go back in time, he would really like to see the doctor in Dongzhuang district Askley and Shengwu. Lin Moyu stretched out his hand and drew a rune. This rune comes from the holy talisman Tianzuan, and is specifically used to point to the direction of this inheritance. Only within tens of millions of kilometers from the inheritance site, the prefectural and district team doctors can play a role. The rune sparkled in the starry sky, not pointing to a specific direction. Still millions of kilometers away. Lin Moyu left behind a skeleton god general, and then chose a direction, Yuan area. After teleporting tens of millions of kilometers, he drew the pointing runes again to check. Because the maximum error in deep space navigation can reach 100 million kilometers, Lin Moyu could only try a little bit. With the skull god as the center point, 100 million kilometers as the diameter, there are 3 spherical areas. Lin Moyu kept teleporting within the sphere and drawing runes. Finally, after some searching, there was finally movement on the pointing rune. Pointing at the rune creates a ray of light, pointing directly to somewhere. Lin Moyu rushed over immediately and came to where the pointing rune was pointing. There is also nothingness here. It seems like there is nothing. Since the rune points here, it can't be nothing. Lin Moyu knew what Holy Talisman Tianzuan had done just after thinking about it. Holy Talisman Tianzuan arranged the containment talisman array here and left the inherited things in the talisman array. If you can't crack the containment array he arranged, you won't be able to get the contents inside. No matter how big or small it is, it can be considered a test. Lin Moyu was already very familiar with the containment talisman formation, so naturally he couldn't stop him. The laws of space are rolling, and the surrounding room is empty. No matter how hidden the containment talisman array is, it always exists in space. When the laws of space are swept across, clues will always be revealed. Sure enough, Lin Moyu sensed the existence of the containment talisman array. Once you find the right position, just warm up and get out of bed. Lin Moyu drew a rune on the spot, and the rune accurately hit the containment talisman array, and the originally hidden containment talisman array was immediately revealed. Lin Moyu then used his soul power as the key to dismantle the talisman array left by the holy talisman Tianzuan. Fortunately, the level of the talisman array left by Tianzuan is not high. If it is like the ancient box and requires the power of rules to open, it will be difficult for the bandits to survive. The containment talisman array was quickly dismantled, and the contents of the internal space were revealed. Lin Moyu's expression suddenly changed, and he teleported away with a movement of his feet. A ray of sword light cut through the void, shattering the afterimage he left behind. Lin Moyu appeared 100,000 kilometers away, his face a little ugly. If he hadn't reacted quickly enough just now, he would have been hit. The sword light kept flying, and Ying Tian worked one by one to accompany the sleeping shadow. Under the sword light was a box, which was the ancient box Lin Moyu had seen. The box is covered with runes, very complicated ancient runes that will give people a headache just by looking at them. The sword's light danced with shadows, and runes were revealed in the light and shadow. The doctor's inscriptions on the sword body also flashed with the doctor's craftsman's inscriptions. This is a Qian Zhao rune magic weapon. Lin Moyu recognized at a glance that this sword was actually a rune magic weapon. Talisman masters can refine rune magic weapons by themselves, and the three most common ones are the fortune sword. However, the power of rune magic weapons refined by different talisman masters varies greatly. The difference is not based on realm. Some talisman masters are good at talisman arrays, but not good at refining rune magic weapons. Perhaps the rune magic weapon he refined was not as good as a rune master at a lower level. The power of the talisman sword left behind by talisman Saint Tianzuan cannot be underestimated. In Lin Moyu's perception, this talisman sword has reached the other side realm and is no weaker than the soul-killing sword. Lin Moyu's heart was like a mirror, and he still understood Lin Xingtianzhen's thoughts. In the inheritance of Holy Talisman Heavenly Lord, he first taught the most basic knowledge of runes, then began to teach the runes, and then dismantled the runes and arranged the runes. Now it is finally the turn to refine the rune magic weapon. Holy Talisman Tianzuan used his method to bring all kinds of knowledge and various techniques about the way of runes to Nuenkyu. Lin Moyu flew over, but did not get too close, maintaining a distance of over 10,000 kilometers. The talisman sword moves very fast, capable of instantly crossing this distance. Lin Moyu is extremely cautious, always ready to escape. He has fought against strong practitioners of the Other Shore Realm before, but it is the first time he has faced a treasure of the Other Shore Realm. This talisman sword is not large, but it is very powerful. Even if the Undead Legion turns into a shield, it is estimated that it could easily penetrate. Lin Moyu is not sure if the golden sword can block it. Most likely it cannot. At best it could last for a while. Surviving 10 seconds would be considered good. Separated by tens of thousands of kilometers, he can still feel the majestic aura from afar. Within the sword light, the figure of the Saint Talisman Celestial appears. It's another strand of soul. Lin Moyu wonders if the Saint Talisman Celestial's soul is inexhaustible, as vast as mountains and hills. The Saint Talisman Celestial looks at Lin Moyu with a smile. You are very good, reaching here at just the third rank of Divine Sovereign. It seems that the inheritances left by this Celestial before have all been obtained by you. But this inheritance, you may not be able to take so easily. His words suggest that the difficulty this time is unlike before. However, Lin Moyu just thinks this to himself, without voicing it out. The Saint Talisman Celestial is known for his tricky temperament, not keen on being openly scornful or disdainful. The Saint Talisman Celestial says, from the previous inheritances, you have learned some basic knowledge of runes and how to use runes to arrange talisman arrays. Being able to come here shows that not only do you have excellent comprehension, suitable for the path of runes, but your combat power is also not weak. This time, there is no need to solve puzzles. You only need to fight. If you defeat the talisman sword left by this Celestial, you can obtain the inheritance, and it's worth encouraging. However, a word of caution, if you are killed by the talisman sword, then you can only blame your luck. One moment he speaks kindly like a benevolent elder selecting his successor, the next he utters such cold words, without a hint of sympathy. The temperament of the Saint Talisman Celestial is indeed very peculiar. After finishing speaking, the Saint Talisman Celestial lightly taps his finger, and a rune automatically flies out. Lin Mou has a bad feeling, but it's already too late. In the starry sky, countless runes appear, densely packed, forming a large talisman array. This talisman array is immense, the largest Lin Mou has ever seen. The Saint Talisman Celestial says, "This celestial has sealed off 1 billion kilometers around. You cannot escape from within this talisman array." Lin Mou curses inwardly, knowing that the Saint Talisman Celestial's words are true. 1 billion kilometers of star space has indeed been sealed off. It's not a sealing of space in that sense, his space laws can still be used freely. The Saint Talisman Celestial has encircled 1 billion kilometers of space, like a cage, without other restrictions. As the Saint Talisman Celestial's voice falls, the talisman sword swooshes towards him, its speed so fast it almost reaches Lin Mou in an instant. Lin Mou instinctively steps out, moving hundreds of millions of kilometers in an instant. As soon as his figure appears, his expression drastically changes, the talisman sword already close at hand. So fast. Lin Mou is shocked, the speed of the talisman sword far beyond his expectations. Without hesitation, he continues to teleport, but after each teleportation, the talisman sword is immediately in front of him. It's impossible, there must be something wrong, it can't be this fast. Lin Mou knows that each time he teleports, his position changes, even if the talisman sword is fast, it should take time to reach him. Yet, as soon as he finishes teleporting, the talisman sword appears in front of him, which is very abnormal. The voice of the Saint Talisman Celestial rings out. This celestial's talismanic treasure has the ability to track and break through space. Even if you possess the space law, you cannot escape. Damn it. Lin Mou curses inwardly. The Saint Talisman Celestial really doesn't leave any loopholes, the talisman sword possessing both tracking and space-breaking abilities. Moreover, the Saint Talisman Celestial's technique is quite clever. Lin Mou did not realize he was being targeted. It's not about being locked on, but the talisman sword moving through space. The talisman sword won't give me a chance to clear the mark. It's not a soul lock, so Wings of the Undead won't be useful. With its space-breaking ability, I can teleport, and so can the talisman sword, so no matter how I teleport, the talisman sword can always reach me in no time. After realizing this, Lin Mou stops dodging. After another teleportation, the golden sword appears in his hands, and he fiercely clashes with the talisman sword. With a bang, Lin Mou is sent flying thousands of kilometers, unable to stop. The talisman sword is also repelled, but quickly flies back after spinning a few times. Lin Mou swings his sword again, the impact against the talisman sword formidable. The talisman sword strikes the golden shield, which shows numerous cracks before being repelled again. Lin Mou notices a notch on the golden sword, damaged in the collision. The outer layer of the golden sword is made from the golden ruled by the Saint Celestial. Though solid, it's not invincible. The talisman sword strikes the golden shield again, shattering it with a loud boom. It performed worse than Lin Mou expected, blocking only 2 attacks. However, it buys Lin Mou some time, as numerous skeletal divine generals appear in the starry sky, forming a flesh shield. Lin Mou knows that merely dodging is not a solution, he must counterattack. The skeletal divine generals launch sword chi towards the talisman sword, the white sword chi illuminating the stars. The talisman sword charges through the white sword chi, unaffected by the skeletal divine generals' attacks. The skeletal divine generals block its path, their golden talismans shining brightly, densely woven into hundreds of layers of defense. Each layer of golden talisman could block a hit from a peak divine sovereign, but against the other shore realm, it's far from enough. There's precedent that against attacks from the other shore realm, the golden talismans are as fragile as paper. Lin Mou sometimes laments that the enemies he faces are too strong, significantly reducing the effectiveness of the golden talismans. Actually, if not facing the other shore realm, the power of the golden talismans is unrivaled. The talisman sword instantly pierces through hundreds of layers of golden talismans, its speed undiminished. Countless skeletal divine generals are pierced by the talisman sword, shattering on the spot. The power of the talisman sword is immense, and Lin Mou summons the Death Dragon Knight Legion. The Legion commander launches a deadly strike at the talisman sword, his war blade hitting accurately, but the talisman sword feels nothing, breaking through the commander's war blade and piercing his body. Even the highly defensive Legion commander is penetrated by the talisman sword, collapsing instantly. Lin Mou summons the Skeleton King, whose throne appears with blazing flames. The Skeleton King's throne is huge, perfectly blocking in front of Lin Mou. The talisman sword strikes the Skeleton King's throne, making a loud noise but breaking upon impact. Lin Mou realizes, as expected. He knows the bone sword in the Skeleton King's hand is incredibly sturdy. And the bone sword is transformed from the Skeleton King's throne, suggesting the throne's sturdiness. Testing it today proves true, even the talisman sword cannot damage it. The talisman sword could create a notch in the golden sword but is helpless against the Skeleton King's throne, clearly showing the throne's superior durability. Lin Mou smiles slightly, knowing he has already found a way to withstand the talisman sword. If even the Skeleton King's throne wouldn't work, Lin Mou was prepared to use the Calamity Staff, but now it seems unnecessary. The Saint Talisman Celestial frowns slightly, squinting at the Skeleton King's throne. It looks somewhat familiar.